Hello again, Doc on the clock with more MaternalBound Redux. And today I'm going to be showing off a bunch of different things. The first thing I'm going to show off is a neat little trick that you may or may not have heard of if you've played Earthbound a lot. So this trick has to do with a certain exploit that can be performed. What you need is a bunch of condiments, sugar packets in particular, a rock candy in the last spot of the inventory, and a willingness to go outside the intended direction of the game. What this does is, for some reason, when you have this item in the last part of your inventory, and you have a condiment, it doesn't use up the actual item. Rock candies increase a stat by a random stat by 1. They will increase it by 2 if you use a sugar packet. You can use this to get pretty ridiculous stats. You can't control the stats you get, but you will eventually get some pretty good numbers. Word of warning, though, don't use this to go over 255 in a stat. It will not go well. There's overflow issues. Trust me, you don't want to do it. I'm not going to use this to get super extreme stats, but I want a few points of vitality in everyone, because later enemies can get kind of nasty. So I'm going to do that, and then we will do the next thing. Now we get to see some of the results of our efforts. That's a lot of HP! That's a very useful amount of HP, actually, because now she's a little bit hardier and able to take a PK Starstorm to the face. And that's a lot of PP because the RNG was not being very kind to me. Joe, the RNG was a little bit kinder, too. Those are decent numbers. They aren't ridiculous numbers. I could have gone to ridiculous numbers, believe me. But, there's no point in going to ridiculous numbers. These are good enough. We still have Doc and Ryu to get, though. And HP and PP for Ryu was much more favorable to vitality than IQ. Like seeing those numbers, though. This PP is really not that good and never will be, but at least he can cast another Starstorm. And Doc actually got quite a bit of vitality for the fact that I did not give him nearly as much attention, because he already got a nice big bump in stats. And that is the results of my rock candying. Not too bad. Gives me definitely a good bit of preparation, I think, for the last areas of the game. Oh yeah! That did not take as long as I had feared it would. So the star pendant is basically the C pendant, except it also has paralysis protection. It also has a little bit better defense, but yeah, the paralysis protection is the biggest boon to it. Means that we can give the better protection of the C pendant to someone else. I could grind for another one, but I don't want to press my luck. I've got one more thing to grind for, so we'll be back when I get that. There it is! Fine-a-frickin-ly! Yeah, one of these had to be trouble. Just zip through this. Yeah, Goddess Ribbon took me a little bit of time. And it doesn't help that I got like 5 frickin' meteorites before I actually got it. I'll make that 6. Alright, it's less luck, but look at that defense. I don't even know what luck does, technically, so... defense it is, yes. Alright. Well, now that that's done, I can move on to the next thing. Alright. First thing I want to do... or the next thing I want to do, I guess, is show off prey commands, because those don't actually, I don't actually see those ever shown very much. They are random, so there's a reason for that, but let's do some praying. Very Subtle Light is a low HP recovery. I think it's like 5% or something like that. It's definitely a percentage of HP. Common, not great, but not terrible. Golden Light is a full HP recovery. Yeah, it's very stuck on the very subtle light. Rainbow colored light. Oof. That is a max revive for everyone. That includes enemies. Kind of a double-edged sword. If your enemies have taken more depths than you have, it kind of doesn't work in your favor. Mysterious Light, that recovers PP, only a very small amount though. Warm Light is similar to Very Subtle Light, but I think it's like twice as powerful. Dazzling Light is is basically PK Flash. You want to be careful with that one because it can affect anyone. There's actually 2 different kinds of Dazzling Light. The PK Flash one, and then there's one that's just a damage one. Healing Alpha doesn't stop crying. Heavy Air. reduces defense power. It can work on everyone, but doesn't always. Yeah, you can see that's like single-digit PP. That's not really that useful, even later in the game. Or even earlier in the game, I should say. I think the pray command would be more interesting if you could actually control it somewhat. I get why you can't. Rainbow Light is supposed to be super rare. I just got it twice in a row. This is a good enemy to test this against because it basically barely does anything. I think I've gotten everyone except the one that just outright attacks enemies. Well, it doesn't have any particularly great animatic or anything, so... That is the pray command in a nutshell. It's not exactly the most reliable thing, but it can have some good effects sometimes. Might be worth using in a pinch just to see if you can, if most of your characters are downed, you know, try to get the rainbow light. I can't imagine it would hurt much. Alright, and what we're going to do next is show off some psychic attacks. You've seen probably most of these, but just to put them all in one place to show them what they do. Spirit Alpha is just a basic hit everything. It has no elements, and it does a light amount of damage. That's good for early enemies, though. Spirit Beta, a little bit more powerful, and it's got the baboom. Spirit Gamma looks a fair bit different. It's very flashy, and it has a bigger baboom. And Spirit Omega is the most expensive spell in the game. But it has even the biggest of baboons. Very nice, yes. Okay, next up is PK Flash. This one does not do damage, it does status. The basic Flash usually just induces crying, but it can make you feel strange. Flash Beta also has a chance to paralyze or instant destroy. Flash Gamma is more likely to do the better effects. And Flash Omega is the most likely to do the better effects. And see, we got instant destruction. The unfortunate thing about Flash is that a lot of enemies aren't vulnerable to it. But, you know, it is what it is. If you want to just throw it out there just in case in a big group of enemies, have at it. Now, Life Up and Healing don't have any animations, so there's not really much point in showing them. Also, they're pretty obvious in what they do because I'd be using them constantly. Life Up Alpha is about 100 HP recovery, Beta about 300 HP recovery, Gamma is full recovery, and Omega is about 300 to 400 to everyone. Very nice. Healing Alpha recovers like Sunstroke and a couple, maybe one other status effect. Very basic, doesn't help that much. Sunstroke and Colds, I think. Beta heals most standard status effects. However, you need Gamma for things like Paralysis and Diamondization, which are the most troublesome and persistent ones. It can also revive, but it can fail to revive, and it's not a full HP revive. I don't believe it actually does anything for Possession. I think that's the only status effect that actually cannot be affected by healing. Ryu gets Healing Omega, which is a guaranteed revive, in addition to doing everything else that the lower levels can do. Shield. It puts up a physical protective shield. Alpha puts up a shield on a regular shield. Beta puts up a power shield. Sigma and Omega put up regular and power shields on everyone, respectively. Only Ryu has that, though. Hypnosis. It causes sleep. Hypnosis Omega also causes sleep. It just causes sleep to everyone, if they're vulnerable to it. It doesn't always work, as you can obviously see. Paralysis induces paralysis. This is really useful against enemies that have only physical attacks. Because when you're paralyzed, you can still do psychic attacks. And here's what Paralysis Omega looks like. Well, that was not very effective against this guy, but every enemy has different levels of resistance to paralysis, so you can experiment with it and see what works. I don't think it works against any mechanical enemies, though. Eve has a lot of psychic attacks. We've got 4 levels of fire. Longosaurus isn't very weak to fire because it uses it. But I can just show you what it looks like. The levels scale pretty linearly, I think, with terms of damage. So I think Beta does about twice as much damage as Alpha. Gamma does about 3 times as much. And Omega does about 4 times as much. The amount of damage that's done doesn't really change that much by your own stats. That's an impressive graphic, though. But yeah, your own stats don't really have that much effect on actual damage. It's mostly the enemy resistances. So enemies can be slightly resistant, it can be not resistant, slightly resistant, moderately resistant, and severely resistant. Severely resistant, it does barely any damage, like you're seeing against the Hungrosaurus. Here's Freeze. Freeze is probably the attack you're gonna use most in the game. It's single target, but it does actually quite a bit of damage, like 100 some, I think it's 160 is the no resist damage, and then it scales linearly again by level. It's inexpensive too for, especially for the amount of damage that it does. So Freeze Beta you can use kind of almost as a substitute regular attack a lot of times with Eve. Especially because she has a fairly large PP well. And that's the Omega version. I'm gonna get a fresh enemy to test out the next stuff. PK Thunder. It's probably the least useful offensive spell in the game. It's cheap. It costs 3 to cast a charge of Alpha. And the damage done is pretty good. The problem is, it only has a chance of hitting. Thunder Beta has 2 chances to hit, but it does only about the same amount as Alpha per hit. And as you can see, it might not hit. And if it doesn't hit, then it doesn't do anything. It's a waste. You know, there's really not much reason to use it in that circumstance over Freeze. I think if there are more enemies on the screen, it has a more likely chance to hit at least one enemy, but again, the issue there is that you can't target it. Thunder Gamma actually does more damage per hit, at least, and it has 3 chances to hit. But 3 chances doesn't mean much if none of them hit. There is a Thunder Omega that is only available to Ryu. It is Thunder Gamma with 1 extra chance to hit. It's just not worth it. PK Thunder is not good in this game. PSI Magnet is called PSI Magnet, even though most other things are called PK. Magnet Alpha hits 1 enemy, Magnet Omega hits all enemies. It drains 2 to 8 PP per enemy that it hits, and adds it to your own pool. Very nice. It's a good way to recover PP if you're running low and you've got mobs of enemies to get it from. Of course, you can only drain from enemies that have PP, and that's not all of them. PSI Shield is a shield against psychic attacks. Regular Shield, Power Shield against 1. Regular Shield, Power Shield against all. These come in particularly handy late in the game when you've got the frickin' Starstormers. Ghost of Starman and Final Starman, they will use those attacks, and they will use them, and they will make them hurt. Offense up, Alpha raises the attack power of 1 ally. Omega raises the attack power of all allies. It doesn't have animation. It's not really worth using. Defense down? I don't know if that has an animation or not. Okay, it does. Alpha, of course, hits one. Omega hits all of them. That's the same audio as Paralysis Omega. Why? It's a completely different type of move. Alright, let's see, what do I have here? So a lot of Ryu's PK attacks are ones that are overlapping with others. He has Freeze and Thunder. He can only get Freeze up to Gamma. He gets Thunder up to Omega. He doesn't get Life up Omega, but he does get Healing Omega. And he gets PSI Magnet. He gets all the levels of Shield. So there's really only two to show off here. Brain Shock is Confusion. By the time you get the access to Brain Shock, it's really not worth using, like, ever. Of course, one, target all, as is the usual for those. But why would you even bother? Causing confusion is unlikely to yield much because you can just hit them out of it before it even has any effect. And a lot of enemies aren't even vulnerable to it. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that it exists, even. Feels like there could be something better done with that spot. Of course, we also have PK Starstorm. That is a powerful, non-elemental attack. I only have the Alpha at the moment. You only get the Omega version right before the final dungeon. I will show it off in the game, of course, but I can't show it off right now because I don't have it. But yeah, it does like 300 to 400 damage at the Alpha level, and it does like 600 to 700 at the Omega level. And targeting everyone. So yeah. Really, really useful spell. It's kind of expensive, but not as expensive as PK Spirit, and but it does have that effect because Ryu doesn't have as deep of a PP pool. On the other hand, he does have magnets, so he can at least recover it better. And those were the PK attacks. You get to see all of the animations that were out there. Wait, you didn't see one of them. One moment. Because my PK Thunder Gamma just completely missed. Okay, that's what the more powerful Thunder Strike looks like. It's the same between Gamma and Omega. It's all just a matter of how many times it hits. This one is kind of flashy and not easy to look at. Lots of blinking. There's one more thing I would like to point out. You may notice that Doc's HP counter has looked weird sometimes. I have actually over 999 HP. I just breached it. I ended up with 1005 HP. It is entirely possible for characters to have more than 999 HP. If you go into quadruple digits, it does have some weird effects on the scroll of the life bar. If you're over 1,000 HP and you get hit by something, it doesn't actually, the scroll doesn't actually work. It immediately sets you at whatever HP you should be at the end of the attack. You know, like a traditional RPG does. But that only counts if you have more than 1,000 at the time. If you have like 998, like I see here, the scrolling will work just fine. And you can heal back up to your maximum just fine as well. So that's just one little quirk of getting over your normal stats. That really only happens if you use the rock candy trick. Otherwise, you just don't get enough. You don't get enough natural growth of vitality to actually get to that. But yeah, that's something to look out for if you decide to abuse that more. I've done that before. I did one time where near the end of the game, I just pumped up stats to ridiculous levels. It was fun. Anyway, I think that's all that all the little extra stuff I wanted to show. I wanted to show some of those PK attacks that just don't get used like rarely or ever, because there's some neat animations in this game. But now that we've taken care of that, it's time to move on to the end. That's all from me for now. Until next time, this is Doc. I'll see you later.